We begin in Abuja with the drama at the entrance of the National Assembly complex on Tuesday as security operatives barred suspended Kogi Central lawmaker, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, from gaining access to the premises. The senator arrived at the gate accompanied by activists Aisha Yesufu, rights advocate Mama P, activist Randy, and a crowd of supporters, but was denied entry by security officials. Yesufu, in a bid to intervene, confronted the officers stationed at the gate and challenged the order allegedly issued to block the senator's entry. The standoff quickly escalated as some supporters began chanting, "Push." The group were later seen marching towards the complex, chanting solidarity songs.
The leadership of What's Black Family have decided to become lawmakers and by denying entrance into the chambers to the deliberative. There's been some conversations in the media by the security the judge did not order by the statement. And I'm going to you see, pursuant to section 90, it is very clear decisions response in 5 minutes in judicial. We in the sentence to be an order, be conviction, and to be
We have now joining us Victor Atewe, a political strategist based in Abuja, as well as Peter Aka, a human rights advocate who has been part of Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan's group as they marched unsuccessfully to effect her entry into the National Assembly. Thank you so much for joining us, Victor and Peter. Now, well, let me start off with Peter by asking, now, apologies, Victor. The court advised the Senate to recall Natasha, and she vowed to visit today. Was the National Assembly justified in denying her access to the premises?
Of course, it's so obvious that the National Assembly has now turned to a National Assembly that is solely controlled by a vested interest. Of course, we all know that it's controlled by one man whose interest supersedes the rule of law. And it's a sad one to see that our country, which we claim to obey and practice democracy, has now degenerated into what we see as a show of shame today at the National Assembly. I mean, imagine a serving senator having been, judgment being given by the Federal High Court stating that she should go back and resume her duty. I mean, look at what is happening. And none of the security personnel who were stopping her from entering could give a direct order to say, okay, we got an order based on this and that, you can't enter. And we have this from, a document to show that, she can't gain access into the National Assembly. I mean, for me, this is not what democracy looks like or should be like. And it's a shame. And giving to a National Assembly, one would have expected that they should be seen to uphold the rule of law. The judgment being passed and saying that she should, the suspension is unconstitutional, disenfranchising her from, disenfranchising our people from participating, for over 6 months. It's really not what we want to see in a democratic system. So it's really a show of shame. For me, what I saw today really goes to show that our democratic practice or system we so practice is not getting close at all, and we're not trying to make it better anytime soon.
Now, what might have informed the National Assembly's insistence on denying her entry despite the court's directive?
Like the spokesperson of the National Assembly said, that the National Assembly, of course, is being controlled by its own rule and giving to what the judgment that National Assembly wasn't mandated or wasn't mandated yes to recall her. So the National Assembly asked that because the court, of course, gave you remember that the court will go find her 5 million naira given to the post she made on her Facebook, and the spokesman of the National Assembly rightly said that she's here to fulfill those obligations. So I think that is what is playing out. They want her to. This is a power play. They want her to go and do what is necessary. But if I'm to advise National, I would have thought they should have allowed her to gain a free entrance, of course, to feed their own side of the bargain, or their own side, the judgment, their own side, and say, okay, you've been asked to, okay, this is the law, this is the rule, you are supposed to tender an apology, you're supposed to do this and all that, and let it be seen to be fair, and say, okay, we obey the judiciary arm of government, the judiciary system of our country, and this is why we're doing that. But them saying that they're not compelled to obey the judgment because the judgment is seen to like an advice, not an advice, not they're being mandated to recall her back. So you could see that it's not a good thing to behold.
All right, thank you so much, Victor Atewe, political strategist based in Abuja, for joining us to discuss this. We also have News Central's National Assembly correspondent, Sagir Ibrahim, who now joins us for more updates on this. Sagir Ibrahim, thanks for joining us once again. Sagir gave us the update as it was happening earlier on. Sagir, can you tell us what the latest is now? Is there any additional information that you might want to share?
Thank you for having me. Blessing. It's still quite similar as it was the last time. The only other twist, of course, being that Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan has insisted that this time she will be approaching the appellate court to seek legal interpretation of the pronouncement of the ruling of the High Court. The reason why she is doing this is because she had accused the President of the Senate of abusing court orders and not following court orders, despite the ruling of the Federal High Court insisting that, in fact, the suspension method on her sanction was indeed excessive, and as such, the National Assembly, the Senate particularly, should review the suspension. But on the other hand, of course, the Senate is insisting that it continues and reserves the right to sanction and to discipline erring members of the Senate, and as such, it has described the ruling of the Federal High Court as basically an advisory rather than a ruling, because, like it said in its own wisdom, it reserves and has the power to sanction erring members without the intervention of, the judiciary arm of government giving it any directive on how to do so. So the lawmaker is saying, the suspender, as a matter of fact, is saying that at this time she would be appealing the judgment of the Federal High Court. So a proper interpretation is given to ascertain whether that ruling was indeed a ruling or an advisory, like the Senate had mentioned it. Of course, you saw the visuals. She came in with an entourage of individuals, supporters, well-wishers, activists alike, who had come, to offer solidarity to her, to say, we stand with you, we are with you, and whatever happens, we're going to see it through the end together. But unfortunately for them, in spite of the fact that they had come just around the time that plenary had just begun, they were denied access into the premises. In fact, her convoy were prevented from accessing the premises. And then she alighted and continued the journey on her own, with her supporters on foot to the entrance of the National Assembly, where, of course, she was also halted and prevented completely from accessing the premises of the National Assembly. I can also say to you at this time that, in spite of the fact that she has since left the premises, movement around that area is still pretty much restricted, with a very long queue of cars waiting to access the premises, because the gates are yet to be opened following August visit. Well, maybe not August, because she had made the announcement on social media, but following her visit. So access is still pretty much restricted at the National Assembly at this time. Back to you in the studio.
So did you get the chance to speak with members of the Senate, even if it was off camera? What's the mood, especially now that one of their own has resorted to personal action?
Well, we didn't get the opportunity to do so, but of course, the day is still pretty much on. We could still do a follow-up. Challenges being that accessing the premises of the National Assembly has been a Herculean task at the moment. But secondly, also, you recall that while the entire brouhaha had been going on outside, our plenary activities continued normally. So the lawmakers are in the chambers carrying out legislative functions, carrying out legislative activities that Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan initially intended to participate, upon which he was prevented access. So we've not yet heard anything from any of the lawmakers. We are still yet to get a confirmation or an acknowledgement of our arrival from the spokesperson of the Senate. But our ears are open. It may come later in the day, but when it does, of course, we'll be the first to bring it to our viewers. Back to you in the studio.
All right, thank you so much, Sagir Ibrahim, for the update on the Natasha Akpoti and the Senate saga so far.